Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Soccer Cards and Chill. A little bit festive today. As you can see, I've got my Christmas jumper on. I've got a guest today, Jake Kirkham. Have I pronounced your surname right, Jake?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
good,
yes.
good. I'm worried then for a second. I'm worried if I got that right or not. I wrote it down earlier, and then as I read it out, I said, have I said that right? It's not too hard to say, though. So, yeah, Jake hasn't joined me on my Christmas jumper venture today, but in all honesty, I didn't tell him to, so I'm not going to hold that against him.
A little bit bad.
Don't.
Christmas jumper week last week, so that was last week, wasn't it? So,
you're all Christmas jumper out then, aren't you now?
100%. We have got a tree in the office though, which we didn't have last year, so that's a bit of an improvement, which was asked by the guys, and I said we'll definitely get one this year. So we've got a nice little tree.
So you're getting into the festive spirit. I like it, mate. Cool. So yeah, thank you for joining us. If you're not aware, if this is the first time you're listening or watching Soccer Cards and Chill, this is a podcast put out by Futera. As many of you know, we are a publisher of some of the finest trading cards in the world and predominantly soccer cards, and we've been making them for over 30 years. We hold big licenses with some of the Europe's biggest football clubs, but this podcast, Soccer Cards and Chill, is not just about Futera, it's about the hobby in general. What I try and do is I try and invite an interesting guest on every fortnight or so, and we talk about the hobby and where things are going. This guest today, Jake, is a guy that I've wanted to get on for quite some time because he's doing some really interesting stuff in the grading domain of the hobby. Jake, why don't you tell the guys who maybe aren't aware of what you do?
Okay, so my name is Jake. I'm the director of Majesty Grading company. So we're a UK-based grading company, just trying to offer a better service in the UK, where I feel it's been kind of abused for a little while by the big companies in the US. So we're just trying to offer a better alternative, a cheaper alternative, a quicker alternative, and just deliver on what we say, really. So and we've been going 18 months now and growing quite quickly. So it's been exciting times for us.
So how long has Majesty Grading cards been like fully grading cards though? So I imagine there was a bit of time between when you set the company up and when
so there was about 3 months in total before kind of the in terms of like tracking down machinery, speaking to kind of manufacturers about kind of plastic cases and speaking to labels. We also have kind of like technology in our kind of cases as well, which we'll probably go into later as well. But So there was kind of a 3-month project to kind of work on that, get it to a stage where I was happy with the product. And then we were meant to launch. We were meant to be the first company in the UK to launch, but there was a few people that beat us, to be fair. And the reason why, I don't know if you remember a while back, but the Suez Canal got blocked by the big container ship.
I do. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and just my luck, our machinery was stuck on that well, not on that boat, but behind the boats that was stuck as well. So we were expected to launch a little bit quicker. We were trying to battle it out to be number one, and we ended up missing that. But it probably works in our favour because there was a few other companies that started up before us that are no longer around now and made a few mistakes, and we probably had a little bit of an advantage watching what they did, and we kind of go, okay, well, that's probably not the right way to go, and stuff like that. So in total, we've been going for about 18 months now, actually, grading cards. We originally started when we first launched, we offered it completely free to everyone. So we had 500 users, part of the 500 club, we called it, that could grade a card for free.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was kind of, the thing is, sending a card to someone that you don't know, or a business that you've never even seen before, is quite a leap of faith, really. So I felt it was the best way to do is just offer the service up for free and just say, you know what, send us a card. We'll cover the cost of postage. We'll cover the cost of everything. We just want to see if you enjoy the process and like the product that we deliver. And thankfully, from that, we've never slowed down. The one thing that I always kind of hope that we never have is no orders here whatsoever, and every single time we've managed to have, say for instance, orders always backed up and stuff like that. So it's been pretty good, really.
Well, first off, as a fellow, someone who likes to think about things from a marketing perspective, I think that's really smart. One of my questions is actually on perception, being a challenger brand as you are, how you've dealt with that. But that answers that question to a certain extent, where you said to people, look, you can grade for free, and I suppose that does a couple of things. Then that gets people familiar with your service and that you can deliver, and then also they go away and start sharing those images of their Majesty graded cards on their social. So, but I would try to dive a little bit deeper into that, because there's a couple of things you said there, Jake. By the way, the whole thing of like, I think sometimes brands obsess about being first. I think maybe we could be guilty of that in the past at Futera. I don't think that the management team here would mind me saying that. There's a little thing of, oh, we were the first to do this. But that doesn't necessarily matter per se. It's, do you do it the best? And you're saying there that you're optimizing your kind of your system and way of grading. So I don't think it matters whether or not you're the first. It's about whether or not you do a good job. And but yeah, so are you? What's your background, Jake? Because that's quite it's a very smart way of approaching a new business, I think, to give away your product for free if you can do that at first. So what is your background, mate? How did you arrive to launch what you're doing now?
Well, I originally at the time, so I had a few other businesses prior that were to do with other different things, some stuff to do with plastic manufacturing in kind of China as well, which kind of led into contacts, being able to get kind of cases and things like that made and things. But at the time I started MGC, I was working a full-time job at Kellogg's. So I was employed by Kellogg's. Probably they weren't very happy with me because I was spending obviously a lot of time, trying to build MGC for that 3 months prior to starting. And I kind of disappeared from Kellogg's kind of radar for a little bit, which, in the end it worked out right for me. So I'm happy about it. But, they got it as well, to be fair, that they were good with it. They knew kind of I had my dreams to start this, and, they kind of knew that there was no really stopping me in what I was going to do. So, but yeah, so that was kind of my background. And then the reason kind of for starting, I've always been a card collector myself, all the way back from kind of Pokemon cards as young, then moving kind of more into sports cards and go for kind of more high-end products as such. But I was kind of fed up with, especially Pokemon as well, is there was so many kind of scams and things like that was running on Facebook, so many people being hard done by. And originally, I didn't really want to start a grading company. I wanted to start a company that would allow people to encapsulate cards and have some kind of identification number, some kind of microchip or security elements that people could send cards to, especially with eBay as well, where you've got the protection of sending a card there. If it's encapsulated, if it's protected, they can't say it's fake and send it back to you, and then obviously you get a scam. So that was the real reason behind kind of starting MGC as such. But when we put the feelers out there from everyone, it was, we don't want that. We want grading. We want the security element. We want the protection that you'll get from obviously sending an encapsulated card. But we really want the grading element as well, because that's the enjoyment, that's the fun that we get out of it, and that's the potential, the added value that everyone kind of is so keen to get. So, but that's how kind of MGC started as an idea, and then led from there, really.
That's, again, fascinating, really fascinating stuff. So, like, what I'm intrigued by with starting a new grading company, so, we know the big boys are. PSA spring to mind straight away. We know the problems that they encounter, the issues with how long it takes to get cards graded. I see lots of collectors talking about this, the expense. I think there's an industry that's kind of developed around that, like off the back of those issues, people packaging up for cards up for other people and then sending them as a group off to PSA. So what are you doing to really kind of like, bump the value up, the perceived value up of having a card generated with MGC?
I suppose the service is the first thing. So we offer a great service. I think we always deliver on time frames. We keep customers updated the full way through, which I think is always a big thing. I've kind of sent cards off for a long time to PSA, and you just kind of get fed up. You're lost in kind of nowhere. You don't know what's going on. You're kind of thinking to myself, it's now been a year and I've still not had my card back, and no one's given me any information of where it's at. So that's kind of one thing that we're quite transparent about is telling you where your card is at the right time, so you know exactly when you're going to get it. And then delivering on promises. I mean, we set our kind of time frames to 8 weeks turnaround time for our longest service, like our bulk service or our bronze submission service. And we always deliver on it. And most times we deliver at 6 weeks because I want to deliver earlier to show that obviously, yeah, you know, we're kind of under control of our time frames and stuff like that. But the value side of it's a tricky one. I mean, when we started, you know, there was no value in MGC cards. It was okay. It's just a case. It's just a protective case, and we've given it a grade. Someone might pay a little bit extra for a 10, but we're starting to see a real change now. A real change in people that are collecting MGC cards, and they're even, you know, cracking out their old PSA cards and putting them into MGC slabs, because people are similar to myself in terms of I like things all being aligned. So our label is very aligned. There's no real changes to it bar the gold logo for the 10.
Yeah.
I think people, you know, they want to collect and they want to have their collection in one whole slab. So a lot of people are changing over to that now. I'm trying to think as well. We post a lot on kind of our social media kind of price comparisons, which I think is a big thing. We kind of, because I see the comments a lot on Facebook, oh, MGC had no value. And then I go on eBay and I go on, you know, 130 point and things like that. And I'm seeing like, we had one recently, like a base set Charizard in a grade 9, sell for £930 or something like that. And then the day before, a PSA 9 sold for £836. And that to me that blows my mind. And it was in Australia as well, the MGC card, which is even crazy. You know, it's
so you're starting to kind of grow now your exposure. It's not just a British market. You know,
yeah. So we launched recently the MGC Hungary hub. So in Europe, so they're operating for a kind of our Europe base. So they'll be sending cards into similar to kind of PSA setups with the middlemen guys that are out there at the moment. But they've been taking kind of cards in, and then we also have one in Singapore for our Asian kind of market out there. So they've been running now probably around about, I think 3-4 months, and we've received over 900 cards from them so far. So, you know, they're starting to kind of ramp up and getting cards sent over to us. So it's really exciting.
I'm genuinely very, very impressed, Jake. I think, you know, I've observed the work that you've done. I've seen some similarities. You know, it's interesting that you talk about you know, we're obviously on this theme of perception and how perception sometimes doesn't match reality. You know, the comments that you guys have got, I see that on our side with Futera, where I will see every now and again a comment on Twitter of someone saying, actually, you know, Futera cards, it's the first Futera card, but it doesn't count. It's going to have no value in the future. And then when I look at the value of some of our cards on the secondary market, they actually sell quite well, especially you know, the higher end ones that we do, which is a lot of our cards, you know, gold plated 1-of-1s and stuff. They do retain their value if you're looking at it from a secondary market perspective. Of course, as a publisher, that's not it's not as much of a concern for me. Yeah. However, we need to also pay lip sync, I think, in the hobby to the fact that a lot of people are collecting now, and they're looking at trading cards as an asset class. It's not just collectors anymore. Whereas when I worked for Futera, Jake, many moons ago, you know, in my late teens, early 20s, it was a very different landscape. There were predominantly collectors, and actually, while there was value in cards and people could sell them on eBay and stuff for decent values, it wasn't as pronounced as it is now. Yeah. But I think, so what your approach to this and your strategy, this is really, really on point. And you don't need me to tell you that because of the growth that you've seen. So fascinating to hear that, and to hear that as well, that, you know, people are cracking open PSA cards and putting them in yours. I think it's a compliment to what you're doing.
It's crazy. We had one come for a couple of days ago, and it was a PSA 10, and it got an MGC 9. And there's, you know, I'm sure, you know, I'm not saying our scales, you know, too far apart and things like that, but the fact that they just wanted it in MGC 10 was an MGC 9 case was pretty cool, and they were happy to change it over. It was pretty fun, you know, and you know, and even like 2 days ago, I was on Facebook just scrolling through, and I love kind of looking at all the comments, and a lot of the time they are positive. You know, there's a lot of positive ones on there, and someone put a comment on there saying, looking to buy Lionel Messi cards, only interested in PSA and MGC. And that to me, like, I was like, wow, you know, like, it's the smallest thing, but the fact that someone has kind of, you know, they're interested in buying our cards. And I think a lot of the time it probably stems from our membership package now that we've got. So we've got over 700 members that are part of the MGC membership club. who are using our service every single month now, sending 5 cards off. And that service there, I think, has built such a great community where people are really kind of, you know, building their collection of MGC cards over a period of time. And, you know, people are now sitting there. They've been kind of part of it for maybe 12 months now, and they've got a really nice collection of cards that are graded. And they probably wouldn't have graded cards beforehand down to the price of kind of, you know, what it is to send abroad and stuff. So it's it's cool.
Well, what you've done is you've identified, you know, there was a real pain point when I first started this, Jake. You know, the whole soccer cards and chill thing was very integral to the success that we got in terms of being made relevant again in Europe and the UK. And one of the things that I would frequently get, because I went on a journey, Jake. I mean, I'm not a collector. I'd worked for Futera before. Everything had changed, as I said, in the 10 years that I'd been away. And I was like, right, okay, I've got to learn what's going on. I know there's a boom going on. I know people are interested in cards again. I kind of see that trading cards are cool now, but I'm not in the mindset of a collector. So, and every collector I spoke to, Jake, going back and looking at them early episodes, it was, you know, the whole thing around getting cards graded is very laborious. It's costly. It's, you know, I was seeing people like Soccer Silverback, who's quite a prominent voice in the soccer card hobby. You know, he was on the show and he was saying it takes you a year to get them graded. And I was like, this is insane. You know, and when you couple that with the fact of a lack of communication, so what you've done is you've identified there's an issue, a pain point, and you're trying to solve that for collectors, and that goes a long way. And the fact that you're managing to do that is very evident. So, mate, I'm really, really intrigued. Please do tell me about the process of grading cards, because in my head, right, I imagine it's a smoky, dark room, not a smoky room because that'd ruin the cards, a dark room, and there's a load of little kind of like geeky guys with their little glasses on. What's it like? I
mean, that's what I think that's what PSA, you know, the big American companies have done, kind of maybe in a great marketing way. They've done it, you know, they've made it very very hidden and very
elusive. Yeah.
I remember like seeing like the old videos of how PSA kind of, you know, did their walkthrough, and I think there's only one video out there where they've ever really shown behind closed doors of what they do. And like you said, it's exactly that. It's really dark and it's really kind of, you know, mysterious. You've got some guy sitting in a little cubicle and things that to a certain degree, everything's pretty hands-on. You know, the process goes through kind of 4 stages with us at present. So the cards are sent to us. So you place your order online, the cards are sent to us. And then they would get put into booking stage. So the cards would be booked, they'd be logged onto the system. And automatically, once they've been logged onto the system, you would then receive an email to say, your cards have been arrived, they've been booked in the system, and you know, they're in the process to move on. The next step would then go into authentication. So each card is authenticated before it's graded. So we go into an authentication process. We have kind of different methods that we use, but a lot of the time, some of the main kind of factors we look for is, I mean, with Pokemon cards, it's, you know, there's some very, very poor ones out there. Sports cards are a little bit harder, but you can look into more detail under kind of high magnification and look at kind of the print marks and the print lines and things to actually work out how the card is made. We have kind of a database now as well, which has grown quite big with a lot of replica cards that we can match up to as well. And we can go in and view them. Same with autographs as well. We're finding that not that we grade autographs that are not already authenticated by, say, for instance, like Futera, authenticated by Panini or so on and so forth. But we're kind of spotting kind of things like that now as well, where we're seeing trends that don't really match up, and we're using our system to match up against it. So, and then once it's passed for authentication, you'll get another email to say, yep, you're all good. Your card's now going into grading. And the grading process is quite straightforward. So everything's done under magnification. So we don't have kind of little jeweler's loops as such, but we have kind of, you know, pull over kind of magnification we can look at. We also have kind of a scanning system inside as well that allows us to measure kind of the centering and things. So it allows us to blow it up on a high-res image, and we can actually kind of view the centering and view kind of any kind of blemishes or errors clearly as well. And then we're given a score out of 10. So the metrics go into the system. It will then give it a score out of 10. And then the labels are then printed and then ready for the machinery. So that's the next kind of process where it goes into our encapsulation team. So have you ever seen what the machines look like that weld the cases together?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Okay. They're these huge, weigh an absolute ton machines. There's actually, I mean, I don't even know if I can point, but just one, you can see the little wheel just there at the top of it. But yes, they're called ultrasonic welding machines. And what they are is they use sound waves to send sound waves through the plastic cases, which allow the plastic case to weld together, which means that the plastic is then combined as one. So it makes it very hard to crack a slab out and open a slab up, so you can't kind of transport cards out and trade the card out and put another card in. And then photos are taken, the cards are then sleeved, bubble wrapped, and then you get a final email to say your cards are out for delivery and they're sent to you.
Wow, man, that's really, really interesting to hear that the process. I'm sure from a content perspective as well, you lean into that, because I think as a collector now, or someone like me who's morphed into a semi collector, got the bug a little bit. I don't know what the process looks like. So and I know from the stuff that we do sometimes, Jake, people really like to get behind the scenes, don't they? And under the skin. Again, a lot in that I kind of want to pick up on. I'm just trying to think where to start. So you've got this kind of this slick process that was it quite like heavy startup costs when you were approaching this to get these machines? I imagine they cost a lot of money, do they?
Yeah, so we started with one machine, which was around about, anywhere from £15,000 the machinery kind of first kind of cost, and then we now have 3 machines in total, so we can up capacities and we can run quicker in that sense there. So that's a pretty handy thing.
Okay, sorry, my camera just...
That's all right. Oh, we got a different angle.
Yeah, no, I haven't. My camera, for some reason, I've got to check it. It just said the battery's been exhausted in it.
No worries.
I don't know. Yeah, it's not... Maybe I've not plugged it in properly. But yeah, everyone can see me. If this is only a problem for people who are watching, and most people listen to this anyway, so I'm not going to... sorry, but anyway, no, I was listening to you and then trying to switch the camera over. So there's because that was one of my questions really, is to get going with something like this. I think it's it's really intriguing to me because it's not an easy thing to execute, and as you've pointed to, many people have tried this, haven't they? With regards to trying to start their own grading company, but there's a lot to it, probably a lot that you don't think about. Maybe I think people would have thought, oh, this is I can do this, there's a problem here and I'm going to try and solve it. Are you within your marketing, are you kind of like trying to position yourself as the go-to place for, I know you mentioned Australia stuff, but the go-to place now for British collectors? Because
our main concern is the UK. I mean, the only reason why we ventured out to kind of like European bases and kind of the other kind of place in the world as well is solely down to the fact that people have asked for it. But the majority of the time, all our efforts are focused on the UK. I mean, to put it in perspective, last year, I can't even count how many shows we did. We were at every single card show in the UK. We supported every single one that was there. Pretty much travelled from the bottom of England in Brighton all the way up into Glasgow and things like that. So we've tried to do as much as we can in the UK to get our name out there, to get people to know to us. And my whole thing for starting it was, I was just fed up with kind of, like you said, the process and how hard it is just to send a card off for grading and how hard it's been made to do. And like little things like up charges on the way back and stuff like that. I was like, it's not what grading should be. It should be a very simple, easy process that isn't very stressful, doesn't cost a lot. And in the grand scheme of things, just makes you happy at the end of the day when you get your card back. So, that was pretty much it. But yeah, we focus on the UK. I mean, the brand in itself is very much, UK based as well. We have the Union Jack on the back of the logo as well. We have a lion head, royalty in the name as such as well with the Majesty Grading Company. But there's nothing really like, there was no like amazing kind of story about the logo or how we founded the name. It was just, I felt it needed to be 3 syllables, be an MGC kind of thing. And then Majesty worked and I thought it looked quite cool, so we put a lion head on. That was it, really.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because maybe as a marketeer and someone who thinks about branding quite a lot, I picked up on that. That's why I asked that question about you leaning into the British audience, and whether or not it was intentional or not, it doesn't really matter. I think it works, you know. Like if I was an American brand starting up, maybe you'd use Eagles and whatever.
Yeah.
But there's certain connotations. I think. Well, there's a reason why brands over the years have used the Union Jack. Mini being a prime example. Of really harnessing that, because it has certain connotations. I think, you know, and Majesty as well, and especially in grading when the quality is everything, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
So when you talk about some of the cards, you know, that you grade, I'll get onto what Futera cards you've graded in the past, but are there any other things that you're looking for? And hey, have you got any advice to collectors insofar as how to ensure that to give their cards the best opportunity to be graded highly? What do they need to do when they get one?
Yeah, I mean, there's two things really. And we say it over and over again, but it still doesn't happen. The first thing is look at your cards before you send them. I mean, it blows my mind. Some people just send cards off and, you know, they don't really look at it. I mean, some people are just, you know, they're just doing it for their PC and they want it slabbed and want it encapsulated, and that's completely cool. But then there's some people that are out there just to solely go and get, you know, a grade 10 or a grade 9. They're trying to get them high grades. But they haven't looked at the card previous, and, you know, there's kind of scratches and kind of marks on the card that they've probably not actually looked at firsthand. And then the second thing is packaging. I mean, we've had some crazy packages turn up that you just kind of think to yourself, what were you thinking when you packaged it in that? I mean, the worst one I've ever seen was some cards that were sent unsleeved, and I feel sorry if the person obviously listens to this, and, you know, hopefully they don't. But
don't name them.
Yeah, that's it. They sent them unsleeved, with kind of wrapped in tissue paper in a frozen chicken Kiev box. And I was like, what are you doing? You know. And then there's other people that, you know, probably overdo it as well, which is, I'd rather you overdo it and they arrive safely and, you know, they're in the best condition they possibly can be when they arrive in the post. But yeah, the chicken Kiev one was one that, you know, really and it smelled of chicken Kiev as well. It was just, I don't know if they needed a box and they were in a panic and they wanted to get it done quickly and they grabbed it and that was that. Yeah, so
that's like cutting your nose off to spite your face, though. I mean,
exactly. Yeah, it was
preposterous to me. Like that, you go to WH Smith if you want to get something graded, and you know, and you're thinking you've spent money on your cards and they can potentially hold value in the future. Go to WH Smith's and buy some proper stuff to send it in, and go on Amazon and get yourself a load of, you know.
I mean, we have like the MGC Secure packs, which they work out. I think they're £9.99. They come with all the packaging, all the sleeves, all the top loaders, semi-rigids, whatever you kind of you know, require, and then they also come with your return postage as well. So you've got everything there for pretty much £9.99, included your postage. You know, to get them back to us. And if you haven't got a printer as well, you've got the access to obviously the submission forms that are in there as well. So a lot of people use that, but yeah, there's so many. But maybe the guy was just really desperate and just wanted to get the cards out quickly and get them turned around. So you know, but yeah, it was a bit of a strange one. But yeah, just make sure they're kind of protected when you send them in is probably the best kind of thing to do there.
Yeah, and guys, I mean, look, hey, I'm no expert on this, but it's not that expensive. Just go onto Amazon and buy those like plastic cases.
Yeah, you can get top loaders anywhere now.
Yeah, so. Top loaders. Just put them in a top loader. Like, there you go.
And if you ever don't
about £4,
yeah, if you ever don't have them or anything like that, just drop us a message. I mean, a lot of the time, if people are sending cards in that, you know, it might be their first time and they haven't got them, you know, the guys that are packaging orders will probably drop a couple in there as well, just to say, you know, next time try and use these. It might help a bit. So
don't use a chicken Kiev box either.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
outrageously crazy. So you mentioned autographs earlier, by the way, and I just wanted to go back to that. That's what I wanted to pick up on as well. Yeah, the funny thing about autographs is, and again, I see this, you know, people will say like, oh, hey, this autograph doesn't look like this one. Listen, I've sat down now with lots and lots of footballers and while they've signed cards. I won't do the name drop thing, but lots and lots of
time. I see it on.
Yeah, and trust me, guys. Listen, they get. It's funny because they start and I watch them and they'll be very precise, and then we'll have them signing sometimes 200 cards, and then it gets more progressively like just quicker, and then they'll just turn into squiggles. So if you're looking for continuity all the time, they're humans at the end of the day. They're not machines. They don't always get it. So what? Just tell me a little bit about like business challenges right now, Jake. It's hard out there. You know, you've got postage strikes here in the UK. You've got costs going through the roof. How are you navigating this, mate, as a young business owner?
It's tricky, really tricky, to be fair. I mean, like I said, we're very lucky with the MGC membership, because the MGC membership essentially puts, you know, pays for the bills, pays for the staff costs, pays for the offices and things like that as well. Which means to us that we can, you know, anything else on top can go back into the business as profit and things like that. But yeah, without the MGC membership club, we'd have kind of no stability, really. We'd have no kind of tracked income of what's coming in each month and things like that. And that's probably kind of helped us the best. I mean, the way it is at the moment with kind of like the postage systems at the moment, we're just having to pick, you know, individual days and work to that and let customers know that it's going out on this day, and have to work really hard to make sure that we get to that. Because if we miss it now with a postal strike, it could be 2 days later, 3 days later, and then people are unhappy. So kind of just keeping an eye on time frames and looking at that. Cost is gone through the roof. I mean, the cost of production now, you know, a lot of our stuff's manufactured in China, and the cost to get product over from China is going up, you know, huge amounts now. I mean, shipping containers costs a lot of money. Air freight costs a lot of money. So that's one of the biggest struggles. We've been looking for so long to try and find a UK manufacturer. And it's hard. You know, the prices they're charging in the UK are now huge as well. So trying to find that perfect balance, but then also making sure that the customer is getting a good price as well is the most trickiest thing. But everything's gone up. I mean, even down to, so inside our label, our main security feature, we have a microchip that's placed inside and hidden in the label, which is kind of our unique selling point for kind of security. They have a shortage of conductors at the moment in the world for the part that's in that microchip. I think Tesla are struggling with the same thing as well, and loads of different companies are having the same kind of problem. We've now just changed over to this new type of microchip, which has got a different part in, which isn't having that problem. But that's a big thing where, you know, anything like that, you know, we have to react quickly to, because if production kind of, you know, stops, then our business stops. So yeah, just kind of, you know, planning ahead, making sure we always have enough stock in. You know, we started up pretty much, you know, around COVID times as well. So you can imagine, you know, different kind of issues we had there as well, and offices closing and all these kind of things. So yeah, it's been tricky. It's been tricky, but we're looking good. We're looking good.
Well, more power to you, mate. I mean, it's not again, that's another layer to all of this. Starting up a business is scary at the best of times, but doing it with the current backdrop as well, and then making a success is more of a credit to you. Okay, so what does the future of grading look like, Jake?
So we have kind of I believe MGC can only become as big as it can kind of be. You know, I think you look at the growth, you know, of PSA, and I think last month they graded 1 million cards, or 900 and something odd thousand cards. I think we hit a record last month for 7,500 or something like that, which is a huge amount of cards. You know, but in the grand scheme of things, compared to the PSA and likes like that, it's not that much. But we are catching. I mean, I look at a lot of the stats a lot, and I think Beckett are now at 50,000 a month. And running half price sales galore and stuff like that. And that to me sees, you know, a Beckett that used to be number 2 in the market, you know, how quickly they can fall, and potentially we can be there one day to maybe get to that kind of level. You know, if we're grading 7,000 cards now and we're 18 months old, you know, in say, for instance, 5 years, could we be at 50,000 cards challenging Beckett at the same kind of amount of turnaround they're kind of doing? So yeah, and then in terms of the wider scale for kind of grading, I have some other plans as well, which I hope to help build MGC, but it will also help other grading companies around the world, which is to do with a software kind of plan that I've kind of been building and working on for probably about a year now, and I'm hoping it should go live next year. I've got a really good business partner on board with that as well, who has some software companies and things like that, which could really change the game for a lot of the smaller grading companies that are trying to do similar kind of things that we did, but struggled as it, with the same kind of issues that we had, when we started, that we've now overcome. So that's kind of the, I suppose, the world domination plan or whatever, to kind of, help other grading companies around the world create a kind of grading service. Because I just think that, what we stand for with delivering on time, telling the customer where their cards are and all that kind of thing there, should also be kind of passed throughout. And, I don't see the big guys kind of really taking them steps to actually kind of update people so far. I mean, that's where I'm kind of looking at the moment.
And anything blockchain orientated?
So we started, when we first launched, that was one of our kind of starts. And it's probably a conversation we maybe need to have, further in the future, because I think you're probably a little bit more wised up than I am. But we did start kind of like an NFT, what was it? NFT My MGC. So it was turning your MGC card into a NFT as such. And there was people that took it on, but I felt at the time, I don't know why, but it was in a weird time where a lot of people were not too sure about it when we started it. They were still kind of thinking, is this the right way to go? The potential is definitely there. I mean, I think digital is going to be the way future, and we're going to see collectibles, sold in an NFT format. I mean, I've got one of your guys' NFTs as well that you guys do as well.
Have you? Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I've got one. I need to message you to find out how to do more with it, because I follow kind of obviously Futera team out in Thailand and things like that, and I want to kind of probably interact more with it as well. But I've got one, and I'd like to also know as well, because can't you actually have the card printed out? Is that correct?
Yes, you can. You can. They look very, very, very beautiful. There's one over there, but I won't get up and get it. But yes, they look really cool. Yeah.
I need to get mine done so I can have it, encapsulated and put in the office. We've got a little bit of a kind of a museum as such that we're building. For when people come into the walk-in service, they can have a look at some of the cards that we've kind of got on display, and some of the cool companies that we've worked with as well, and stuff. So yeah.
Well, that's great. It sounds interesting. Yeah, and I think utilizing the blockchain moving forward is certainly something to be considering, given the way things are going at the moment. Though it's the wild west, isn't it? So I wouldn't worry about attacking it anytime soon, because I think just being aware of it and slowly edgy towards it. But at the moment, it's just crazy. It's a crazy domain to be in. So we've been on for 36 minutes now, Jake. So we'll wrap up very soon. I just wanted to know, finally, my assumption is you grade quite a few Futera cards.
Yep.
Any that have come through recently where you've been like, oh, I really like this card?
Yeah, I mean, so there's probably two collections. So we had a huge collection of Futera cards from a customer named John T, who just had pretty much every single kind of legend you could imagine, from Maradona, Messi, Pele patches, Johan Cruyff, Ronaldo. Just the collection was unreal. So that was really, really cool. And we just had some more sent in from him as well. So I'd be excited to see what he sent in this time round. And then probably I'd probably say our biggest Futera card was the Lewis Hamilton rookie card, the next card. We had two in, so we've had two in now. One graded at a 6, and I think one graded at a 7. I'll have to double check, but yeah, I think it was a 6 and a 7. And that was like a real. There's cards we get that really kind of blow your mind, and you're like, wow, we've gone from getting kind of base cards and smaller cards like that, which is still cool, and they're still great, and I appreciate everyone sending them in. But then there's some cards that come around, you're like, oh, that's like a next level kind of card. And I think the Lewis Hamilton Futera Grand Prix card was definitely up there with being probably the biggest we've probably had, and probably the most expensive we've had. I mean, yeah, we've had some big cards now, but them there would be the ones.
Yeah, it's an iconic card, that one. It's an iconic card. So yeah, I bet that was cool to see that in the flesh. Look at you. Right, okay. Well, thank you for joining us, Jake. It's been really a great conversation. We will have to do it again.
Yeah, sure.
In the meantime, why don't you tell us? That's my boss ringing me. I will tell him off for that. That's Mark ringing me, everybody. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where people can find out more about Majesty Grading Company, and we'll go from there.
Yes, cool. I think next time, if we can do one, if you wanted to come down and bring some cards down, we could get some cards graded on the day, and maybe
do it.
Maybe do some video, and you can see the machinery, see the process. I think that would be the next thing we could do. I think that'd be really cool. Yeah, you can find us on Majesty Grading Company, just on Google, searching through there. Our most active kind of socials are MGC_UK on Instagram. I mean, we post, I think last time I looked, we've posted 6,000 times now. So we post a lot. So you're very likely to see your card on there. If you're interested in seeing kind of price comparisons and the stats and the figures that we're doing at the moment, that'd be the place to go. And then, yeah, follow me on LinkedIn as well. I sometimes post some kind of some content regarding MGC on there as well. And which is quite kind of more business side of things than kind of just focus on the cards. So
you do. I can vouch for that. I see that stuff on LinkedIn. Well, it really has been fascinating talking to you, Jake. I think you're doing a really, really good job. Intrigued to see, you know, where this goes in the future. I think it's great that you identified, you know, an issue, a pain point, and you've tried to cure that for collectors. So well done on that. I mean, you know, I had David Chamberlain on, who's CEO of Videos and a big card collector on the last episode, and we were talking about how the hobby is professionalizing, and I think you're a great case study for that, really. So yeah, congratulations on everything. Keep up the hard work, my friend. Very admirable, and thank you for joining me on Soccer Cards and Shelter Day.
No worries. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Jake. Okay, everybody. So hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and leave us a comment as well. If you are listening to this podcast on any of the podcast apps, do give us a rating on there. It helps us tremendously. So I'll see you next time on Soccer Cards and Chill.